Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, Headliner Nation, what is going on? Welcome to week 12. Well, maybe not officially yet, depending on when you're watching this video, but we are going to be pumping out the content quick this week. It is Thanksgiving week, which means we have 3 games coming up on Thursday that we are going to have to be ready for. So we've got our waiver wire video here on Monday. All of our start and sits and all of our rankings will be out by Wednesday night, so you have a chance to watch everything and get your lineup set for a big slate of Thursday games. For the waiver wire video, though, we're going to be jumping into running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that you could be adding to your roster. Also, I've got some streaming options at quarterback and defense, and some players that you may be able to drop from your lineup. But first and foremost, we got to hop into our comments of the week. They said, what? And take a look at who had some of the best comments from this past week. The first one from my man, A Sneaky Pickle. Your stats on players has helped me push through this wacky season. I'm sure it has drove you guys mad at some point, but you are fancy studs when it comes to starts and sits. I'll say this, I'll be honest with you. This is the point of the season where Jake and I are really pushing through right now. We've been staring at the same thing, the same stats, doing the same content for a while now. Things start to get a little bit stale. So seeing comments like this really help us push through, because it's like, hey, we've got people out there counting on us to help them get ready. So really appreciate that comment from Sneaky Pickle. And, maybe his name may have had something to do with it as well. Row 817, Jake and Turner look like the same guy, LMAO. Oh my gosh. I about died laughing at this one because I don't see it. Apparently he does, but I don't think that's... First off, if you saw him in person, Jake is like 2.5 feet taller than Ethan. Ethan has like 4.5 more pounds of hair than what Jake does. I don't think they're the same person whatsoever. I found that just absolutely hilarious. Matthew Hutchins, one of our YouTube subscribe or one of our YouTube members here on the Fantasy Headliners. LOL, I had written a comment along the lines of grabbing your chub and then getting ready for the playoff push, but I felt dirty after posting it. I just can't throw it out there like Jake. Always great content, guys. If you like the subtle innuendos, or maybe not even so subtle, that we use on this channel, leave a comment down below. Hit the like button. And then Christopher Lorenz. Sorry, everyone, that Harris jersey needs to go to the dock and Kyle gets the ball. I can, without a doubt, say that I have not petitioned Jake whatsoever for the DeAndre Swift signed football. I don't know about Ethan. Maybe he's hit up Jake at this point for that Najee Harris signed jersey. I mean, I'm a Lions fan. Ethan is a Steelers fan, so I don't know. I have not petitioned Jake at all. We're probably going to be giving that away to somebody here pretty soon, so keep an eye on the channel for that giveaway. Those are some of the best comments of the week. Appreciate everybody that leaves comments on our videos. Now we're going to be jumping into the waiver wire portion. And oh baby, our waiver wire video every Monday is brought to you by our friends over at Fantrax, one of the most customizable fantasy platforms in the industry today. If you're going to be starting any type of a new league soon, make sure you sign up with code word headliner so they know who sent you over there. Doesn't matter the sport, you can sign up for any sport over there. Ladies and gentlemen, though, it's time to hop into it. Let's get rolling into the waivers, and we're going to kick it off at the running back position. First and foremost, from Atlanta. Atlanta did a little loop-de-loop on us, a little back and forth, a little shimmy shake, because last week we found out, Thursday Night Football, no Cordero Patterson. Wayne Gallman looked really good the last week, so we're going to get Wayne Gallman involved. Quadre Olison was the guy. Quadre Olison. What? Atlanta. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't think anybody expected it. Even like In all my research, there was a lot of articles that were like, who should we start? Mike Davis, Wayne Gallman, Mike Davis, Wayne Gallman, Mike Davis, Wayne. Nobody brought up this dude up from the Packers squad, and he ends up getting the most carries. I mean, Gallman looked really good 2 weeks ago. Mike Davis hasn't been doing anything as of late. Really thought Gallman was going to get an opportunity, and he did not. So we'll see if Cordarrelle Patterson comes back soon. But for some reason, if he were to miss again this week, keep an eye on Allison just in case he ends up being the lead back again. Matt Breida from Buffalo right now looks like the lead back in Buffalo. There's not a whole lot of touches going to him right now. But if you're watching him, if you're looking at the stats, watching the tape, he by far looks like the best option at the running back position so far this season for Buffalo. Singletary does have some moments where he has some decent touches, but Matt Breida looks like he is a guy that is ready to just boom at the right time. Unfortunately, though, Buffalo really hasn't had themselves in a position in the last couple of weeks to put them in so much positive game script that they can let Matt Breida run it a little bit. But Matt Breida is a priority add for me this week, especially if you're really, really thin at the running back position. Because if Buffalo can get back on track and can start getting out to some bigger leads, I think we start seeing more and more Breida moving forward. Devonta Freeman from Baltimore at 39% owned, 6 targets in the passing game last week, also had 16 carries, which led the game. He is the RB1 in Baltimore right now. We need to have him in our lineup. He is a flex option, RB3 type of player for us right now. We got to be picking him up because Latavius Murray coming back hasn't done anything. Obviously, they released Le'Veon Bell. Devonta Freeman is the guy. You're not going to find many waiver wire opportunities where you can grab a guy that's going to get as many touches and opportunities as he will down the stretch. Tevin Coleman from the New York Jets. Now, Michael Carter left with an ankle injury, and as of this recording, there has been no update, so I have no idea what's going on with that ankle injury. He can end up being just fine. He can end up missing a week. If he misses a week, Tevin Coleman looks to be the next man up. David Johnson, Rex Burkhead from Houston. Rex Burkhead, again, a few weeks back had a good game, and I was like, hey, maybe they're going to be looking to Rex Burkhead a little bit more. And since then, he's done nothing. But all of a sudden, again, yesterday, he pops back up in a winning effort. So for Houston, for me personally, I still think David Johnson is going to end up being the guy the rest of the season. They're not going to be in a whole lot of positive game script the rest of the year. Let's just be honest about Houston, right? So if they're in a negative game script, David Johnson, he's the guy that's getting the passing game work out of the backfield. Would expect Tyrod to be looking his way a little bit more often. So we could find ourselves in a position where in games where Houston's going to be down by a lot, keep an eye on it over the next few weeks. David Johnson could be getting anywhere. I mean, heck, he could be getting anywhere between 4 and 8 targets a game out of the backfield. It's risky to play with that, but at this point of the season, if you need to establish some depth, grabbing David Johnson is going to feel really bad, but who knows? Maybe you would come into I was going to say an opportunity, but if you have to start David Johnson, it's not really an opportunity. Come into a situation where you have to play him. Alex Collins and DJ Dallas from Seattle. Chris Carson, season-ending neck surgery. Alex Collins still continues to be the lead back right now, but DJ Dallas is getting mixed in a little bit and a little bit more. Now, again, kind of what I said with Buffalo. Seattle hasn't been really playing in a whole lot of positive game script. If they get back to more neutral, positive game script away from the negative that we saw last week, we can get more and more Alex Collins. Alex Collins is still the guy to own, but I would, if you own Alex Collins, grab DJ Dallas as well if you have the room to do so you have that backfield wrapped up the rest of the season. In my members only video earlier in the week, I talked about owning running back handcuffs and what that means for your roster. This is one of those situations. Now, flip the script, headed over to the wide receiver position. Jamarcus Bradley, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, DPJ missed this past week with an injury, but don't let him fall through the cracks, okay? He's still going to end up being the big play guy in that offense, but Jamarcus Bradley is going to be that big play guy if there's no Donovan Peoples-Jones. So again, if DPJ ends up missing a significant amount of time, then Jamarcus Bradley is going to be a guy that we will take a look at. For New England, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. Aguilar coming off a good game this past week. Really, outside of a couple performances, hasn't done much of anything. Kendrick Bourne kind of still continues to lead that wide receiver room there. Now, obviously, a lot of people like Jacoby Myers, and Jacoby Myers has been okay at times this season, but he hasn't scored until, a couple weeks ago with his first score. But the volume that a lot of people thought that we saw at the beginning of the season really hasn't been there either. Kendrick Bourne is a guy, again, Not really going to feel like an opportunity to start him, but as we get further into the season here, when you need to establish a decent bench, Kendrick Bourne could be a guy that in good matchups is going to help you out. For Atlanta, Russell Gage, it took last week with no Cordero Patterson for him to lead the team in targets with 8. He hasn't really done anything. He's been unspectacular all season long. However, this point of the season, again, I feel like I'm a broken record with it. We're at a point where you have to establish a bench because you're not going to be able to trade for anybody anytime soon. So you need to have guys on your bench that have potential volume opportunity. I'm going to start calling that PVO, potential volume opportunity. Russell Gage fits that bill. He is the wide receiver 1 on this team. Yes, Kyle Pitts, wide receiver 1, but Russell Gage is probably going to be the number 2 target on this team if there's no Cordero Patterson. If there's Cordero Patterson in the lineup, Russell Gage falls to number 3. But at the wide receiver position, for guys on the outside, on a bad team like Atlanta, who's going to be passing a lot, Russell Gage has potential volume opportunity. You're probably never going to start him unless you find yourself in a bind. But if you find yourself in a bind, throw him in your lineup, you know that you could expect probably anywhere between 6 and 8 targets, fingers crossed, and that could end up leading to a few points at least, so you don't take an egg at the position. DeAndre Carter from Washington, 3 touchdowns over the course of the last 3 games, establishing himself as the wide receiver 2 in that offense. Only 1.4% owned, so a lot of opportunity for you to be grabbing him this week. Rashad Bateman coming off a bad game, but he's still not 50% owned. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Hopefully Lamar Jackson gets himself right. I don't know what the sickness is. I mean, him and Marquise Brown both ill, not COVID related, which is good to hear, but both of them missed this past week. Rashad Bateman, obviously a letdown performance, but we talked about that a little bit on the live show Sunday morning about how with no Lamar Jackson, it does become a little bit riskier, but still want to have him the rest of the season. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been paying attention the last couple of weeks, you haven't heard me talk about MVS. If you've been paying attention, you've heard it, you own him, and you started him. Well, some of our MVP Patreons let me know, Kyle, I actually did start him this week, and he balled out for you. 3.2% owned, and I've been calling this one for weeks. Aaron Rodgers said they need to get the deep game going. You could see that connection forming earlier in the season, and then MVS got hurt, then he came back, then Aaron Rodgers had the COVID issue, and then he had to sit out, then they got back on. Now they're back on the field together. MVS is going to be a big play opportunity every single week the rest of the season. Elijah Moore at 40% owned, 6 targets in all but 2 games this season. Finally, that breakout is starting to happen. Now, I was a little bit off Elijah Moore this past week. I was concerned about him, wasn't loving him, and because of that, I just wanted to see Joe Flacco go his way. If Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback until Zach Wilson gets back, then we need to see that connection with Elijah Moore, and we saw it last week. Now I can move forward with him confidently. It wasn't really a confident start for me last week, especially with all the targets Michael Carter's been getting, especially with Corey Davis and how much he's been the wide receiver 1 on the team. Jamison Crowder really working out of the slot. Crowder's still in the slot. Elijah Moore is on the outside, but Elijah Moore right now is kind of the third focal point of that offense because people are paying attention to Crowder and Corey Davis, and that is boding well for Elijah Moore. 11 targets, 8 receptions, 141 yards. Looking good, 4 touchdowns over the last 3 games. He's probably going to start to see some more wide receiver 1 coverage, though. So I'm not expecting huge opportunities like that every single week, but he is a guy that we need to own right now. Tre'Quan Smith from New Orleans, only 2.7% owned. He is the wide receiver 1 on that team. No crazy performances, but he does have 15 targets the last 2 games, and he's really excelling out of the slot right now. Nick Westbrook Akeen at 0.2% owned. He's going to get New England this week. Julio's out. A.J. Brown was banged up. He had to leave last week's game for a little bit, then come back. Marcus Johnson pulled his hammy. Westbrook steps in. 7 catches on 8 targets for 107 yards. Will likely be that wide receiver 2, that number 2 target on this team when they face New England this next week. Cedric Wilson for Dallas, 1.6% owned. Coming across after that game yesterday, that CeeDee Lamb will more than likely be out this week on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day. Cedric Wilson will step over to wide receiver 2 if Amari Cooper were also to miss. Now, if Amari Cooper plays, Michael Gallup on the other side, Cedric Wilson in the slot, not nearly that great of a pickup for me. But if Amari misses again, then Cedric Wilson is a guy we got to be keeping our eye on. Not much at the tight end position this week, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Troutman, called him as a start this past week. I mean, he's one of the guys that is seeing the most opportunity at tight end right now because he's playing over 85% of the offensive snaps right now. Finally saw that playing time and that snap percentage turn into production, though, which was great. 5 catches on 8 targets for 58 yards and a touchdown. Tough matchup against Buffalo this week, so I'm not going to pick him up and start him this week, but again, keeping him on the radar. Logan Thomas at 47% owned. This is the week. Go grab him. No Ricky Seals Jr. last week. I think Logan Thomas is going to make his way back against Seattle this week. The red zone offense for Washington has not been good. Logan Thomas is a big part of that. So as soon as he comes back, he's going to be becoming that guy that they go to in the red zone again. And then Dan Arnold for Jacksonville. 0 targets, 0 receptions, 0 receiving yards last week. Urban Meyer still has no idea what the heck he's doing as an NFL head coach. Get the ball to your playmakers, Urban. It's really not that difficult to figure out. Come on. Dan Arnold, I do expect to bounce back against Atlanta. Somebody mentioned it with like TJ Hawkinson this past week. And then Mike Gesicki, they were like, do you think they're going to have zeros again? Very rarely are you going to find a guy that at the tight end position getting as much volume as they are put up back-to-back 0. So I highly doubt Dan Arnold's going to put up another 0 this coming week. Now, hopping on over to the quarterback position to talk about some streamers this week. Andy Dalton for Chicago. Justin Fields, it was announced late last night. Negative on the ribs. Doesn't sound like there's any broken ribs, but he's going to go under further testing. He's got a short turnaround this week against Detroit. If he can't get turned around, though, and they go with Andy Dalton, which wouldn't surprise me if they do anyway to give Justin Fields another week, at 0.3% owned, could be a great streaming option on Thanksgiving. Carson Wentz from Indianapolis, they're going to get Tampa Bay. It could be the JT show again, right? I mean, great performances so far this season. Dude looks absolutely just insane out there. Remember when people said to skip on him because he was getting too many touches in college? No, you did it wrong. Carson Wentz for me this week. Tampa Bay with a defense that has shown a little bend, don't break, but has broken at times. Their defense this season in the secondary. Carson Wentz could be a decent option. Cam Newton right now is kind of that main option for Carolina, especially going up against Miami this coming week. He looks like the Cam of old right now. I mean, throwing the ball decently well, running the football, really establishing a much needed just oomph to that team. Okay. This is what they needed. They needed his leadership, and it's starting to show up already within a couple of weeks. Great matchup for him. We're going to roll with him this week. On the defensive side of the ball, Washington going up against Seattle. And Seattle's offense has been a mess for a couple of weeks now. This could be really risky, though, because at any point in time, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, they could pop up. Russell Wilson could feel better coming back. And because of that, Washington, it is risky, but it is a Seattle team that struggled. Philadelphia going up against the New York Jets this week, the New York Giants this week. And the New York Giants can be very, very inconsistent. And because of that, Philly could be a turnover machine. Darius Slay playing some of his best football of his career so far. My apologies, a little bit of the hiccup there. I'm swallowing too much air talking so fast. But Philadelphia against the Giants, 12.5% owned, definitely taking them this week. And for the Chicago Bears, they get Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. So why would you not want to take a shot on them? Even with no Khalil Mack, it's a great matchup, especially on Thanksgiving. Now, some players that we could potentially drop. Some names are going to look familiar here to you. A couple of newcomers. J.D. McKissick from Washington, still over 50% owned. I mean, Antonio Gibson is looking healthy now. He's looking a lot better than he did a few weeks ago. J.D. McKissick really hasn't done anything outside of a couple of surprise performances this season. Cole Beasley, Devin Singletary, and Zach Moss, all from Buffalo. Buffalo really leading the way here right now. But they have so many fantasy viable players. Sometimes you just get drawn away from that. But for Cole Beasley, 75% owned. I said it about Dawson Knox. If Dawson Knox is back and healthy, which we saw yesterday, he is. Dawson Knox looks good, all right? The hand looks good. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to make sure he was healthy. If Dawson Knox is healthy, Cole Beasley is not getting those targets. Those targets that Beasley has been used to getting the last couple of years are going to Knox now. So Dawson Knox is that guy. Cole Beasley is not that guy. Now, again, you might not want to drop him, but you've got Dawson Knox, right? You've got Stephon Diggs. You've got Emmanuel Sanders. Gabriel Davis is starting to make more of an impact over the last couple of weeks. Cole Beasley just doesn't have the same upside that he used to. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, they're getting overshadowed by Matt Breida right now. Darrell Williams, CEH is back. He was the lead back this week. Yep, CEH didn't do a whole lot. He scored a touchdown. If he wouldn't have scored the touchdown, he wouldn't have even been a start. He wouldn't have broke 10 fantasy points. But he was the lead back, and I'm gonna bet that you're gonna see that role continue to grow again. So Darrell Williams will go back to being a guy that we can't really use. However, if you own CEH, if you own him, don't drop Darrell Williams. If you don't own CEH, maybe try to trade Darrell Williams to the CEH owner. If you can't, just drop him and don't worry about it. Mike Davis from Atlanta, some reason still over 70% owned right now. We got to bring that back down. Jared Cook from the Chargers, 54% owned. You got to find better options at tight end. Noah Fant, kind of the same way. He's over 80% right now, but I've talked about it for a couple of weeks. Too many targets around him with Melvin Gordon, with Javonte Williams. Obviously, at wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. And even at the tight end position right now, he's not getting all the tight end snaps. Albert, are you okay? Is getting a lot of those snaps. They're basically splitting the amount of snaps right now. Noah Fant just does not have the upside for me anymore this season. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, we rolled through that today. Hopefully y'all are getting ready to hit the waiver wire this week in week 12 to get your lineup set here in a very early week with 3 matchups coming on Sunday. We're going to be getting all that material out to you before Thursday morning so you can get your lineups ready to roll. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here to the channel, and let me know in the comments below who is somebody that you're really targeting this week that you want to make sure you add to your team. I'm going to get out of here, though. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe and stay healthy, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.